morning, Central Texas. Welcome to KISS Community Connections, 103.1 KISS FM. I'm Phyllis Jones, your host. First of all, what I want to let everybody know is last weekend when they had the Annihilation Walk and Run, we did a voter registration drive, and we registered 100 people, which was awesome. Friday night at my first Friday Black Business Cash Mob meetup, it's a lot to say, we registered 10 people. So we have 110 people more that's going to vote that weren't going to vote beforehand. So I hope that now that they voted, I gave them the paperwork, when early voting is, where, so they got all they need to go vote, so hopefully they do. And I want to let you know, October 11th is the last day to register to vote. October 11th. Early voting starts the 24th of October. I advise you to vote early, then you won't have any nightmares. Okay, so that's my election spiel. Okay, we know in the past couple of years, rapidly we find that our black men are being shot by police officers, and they have no gun. One had a book. Doesn't look like a gun to me, but anyway, they've been shot with just basically shoot, kill you first, and we'll worry about the rest later. Well, so I decided to get a panel of intelligent, strong black men together, and we're going to talk about it, because I want to know is what can we do when that happens. We need to learn to stop the rioting, because all that does is cause more of a problem, and then we're falling into the same trap that we were in beforehand. So we need to find a better way of doing it. And then there's some things that's happening in Killeen, and we need to talk about why we didn't do anything about it. So this morning, I have Minister Robert Muhammad from the Nation of Islam. I have Raymond Goosby, who's a conscious rapper. I'll just say he's an entertainer because he does videos. He's an awesome young man. Then I have Breeon Price on the show, and he has a Up in the Attic radio program. I have Professor Anthony Fulmore, and naturally he's a professor. I have Darryl, Leonard, and he was part of Stop the Violence this summer. I have Raymond Carter, who is the president of the Liberian Association in Killeen, that we did not know we had. Not at all. And then I have Jupiter. And I let Jupiter know where he needed to be today. And this is a topic that, Jupiter, I think he was here already. He just don't want to tell us. He was here like days early waiting, but he's waiting for this to talk about. So good morning, men. How you doing?
Good morning. Good morning.
Okay, so I'm going to ask this one question. I need an answer from everybody. Whenever you look on television, your phone, whatever you're looking at the time, and you hear about another black man being shot by a police officer, how do you feel? Raymond. Goosby.
Just one word. Why? That's it.
It's just one word. Why?
Breeon.
I mean, I kind of feel, you know what I'm saying? I always feel upset, you know what I'm saying, when I see anybody just get murdered for no reason. But as far as our black brothers are, you know what I'm saying, especially after most of us have been through like a rough life, a rough upbringing, and then for your life to be cut short before you really had a chance to enjoy it, you know what I'm saying, that really, it bothers me, you know what I'm saying, because I think everybody should have a chance to really enjoy their life.
Okay, I'm calling on the younger ones first. Yeah, Darryl, you.
I would say for myself, it makes me angry. I myself will want to fight sometimes, but I don't want to be murdered in that process and then not go any further. Last night I went and watched the Nat Turner movie myself, and I realized the reality of what he did was in 48 hours, and nothing else happened after that. So I don't want to go out here and be the first one to start shooting because I'm angry or, flip off the handle and nobody come to help me. But I'm very angry. I'm always angry about it. I just don't know the proper channel of the effective method of the solution, I guess.
That's where the generation that's older than you comes in. That's where that comes from. That's where the knowledge to help you stay level-headed and know what the next step is. That's what I'm just not saying everybody's age, but the generation older than you, that's their job. Okay, now I want to start with Minister Robert Muhammad.
Can you rephrase the question?
Oh, sure. Whenever you hear, see, or read, and basically we see it, a black man being shot by a policeman, especially those that are unarmed, how does that make you feel when you see that?
Well, of course it makes me feel angry. I feel pain. I feel hurt. I feel guilt. But it reminds me of, going to prayer vigils and attending rallies, and where people are praying to their most awesome God and asking God, when are you going to end this senseless slaughter, whether it be police on black violence or black on black violence. And it reminds me of the scripture when man is made and he's put in charge of the fish of the sea, the fowl of the air, and every creepy crawling thing that crawls on the earth, which means that everything is in submission to man. So it always brings me back to the question that not should we be asking God, when is he going to allow this to stop or stop it? But maybe he's asking the same question. Since I put you in charge of everything, when are you all going to stop this from happening? And so our efforts are always to wake our people up, to have us all to realize what kind of power we have if we unite. But anytime I'm asked that question, I always say it has to get worse in order, because our history has shown that we are people that operate best when we're in critical situations. And so, unfortunately, more of us are going to have to get murdered by one another and by the police in order for us to realize that, look, we need to unite and we need to use the power that is founded, that our unity, that we can have through our unity in order to start cleaning this stuff up. And so I hate to sound like a bearer of bad news, but the reason we're here today is because things are not going the way that they should be.
That's true. That's true. Anthony Fulmore.
I'll summarize it in one word. Terrorized, and we'll talk a little bit more about that a little later.
Okay. Raymond.
Well, I'll say, wow, that could have been another way to do that. You can't just go to somebody to arrest them and just shoot them. Some people left the kids, say, oh, I'm going to the store to get something, and then they're dead. So there's got to be another way that the police can do that. And when you told me about the show, I talked to a lot of people, police, friends that I work with, and asked them, what the ready way we can stop this? And they gave me like 5. They gave me a lot of reason, a lot of explanation, but I took down 5, and I hope we can discuss it.
Yes, we can.
Okay.
You can tell us what they are.
Yeah, one is the parents. It's the parents. Some say community. Some say schools. Most of them say the police, and some say it's yourself. But they told me why they chose those reasons.
Okay.
So, and I hope we can reach to that.
Okay. And Jupiter?
I feel that we're running out of time because this only continues based on the humanity of Africans living in America. It is our humanity that we're not responding in kind. So I feel we're running out of time.
Okay. So, okay, now when we see this, the next thing we see is the rioting. We don't hear a group of people went to see the police chief, the governor, the defense attorneys, the prosecutor, district attorney.
That's because we wild. That's because we wild, and we really do need to be taught that, because aside of that, the next thing is to just stand somewhere and be frustrated. Just like we are, wherever we see that in our phone, when we see somebody get shot live on Facebook, you ball your fist up. You know what I'm saying? You bite down on your teeth instantly. You instantly go into savage mode. And that's what we seeing happen, because who's saying necessarily go to the police chief and say something effective when we see that process doesn't even work?
Right. Okay.
That process doesn't even necessarily work. So we've been seeing ourselves get killed for years, and now it's just every other link on Facebook and everything that we see. It's everything that we see. So it's something that we definitely have to deal with and actually put thought to, and find the effective method for us And it sounds like, I mean, both of them are saying it's gonna have to become very extreme.
Okay. Who else got something? Anybody else got something to say about that? The rioting. Yeah. How can we get our young people and some older people too to know that we understand the rioting part? I understand that, but it doesn't help anything, because after they riot, burn up stores, they first of all burn up their own neighborhood, and you gotta live there. But after all this destruction, you got the same issue still sitting there.
I'm gonna say this: the riot reflects on us because we, as the individuals, fail to provide the leadership to our community. We fail to provide the guidance to our community. We're in a state of war, and we must understand the art of war. You know, I remember someone says you must know your enemy, but to know your enemy, you must also need to know the moral parameters of your enemy. We're dealing with an individual that have put us on a concentration camp for hundreds of years. See, we got to stop using the word slavery, because slavery makes it normal, because they say everybody enslave everybody. So when they talk about Jews, they say concentration camps. When they talk about us, they say slavery. So we must know the moral parameters of the individual that we're dealing with. Okay, this is an individual that have not given us citizenship in this country. We must ask for the right things. To be recognized as a citizen, the wrong that was done to me by the state must be corrected. So therefore, until I receive reparations, I am not a citizen. It's a basic thought process. Every time I attempt to be a citizen, I'm killed. All of my leaders are killed. Everyone that has come before me that tried to make it better for me have been killed. This is a reality. What they call education is indoctrination. Because with education, we will realize that this whole country is corrupt. If Hitler did what he did to the Jews for 11 years and he was the worst human being ever existed, how can we say Abraham Lincoln and George Washington are heroes when they perpetrated the same thing to us for over 200 years? We have to deal with this from the onset where it comes from. And our young men have to trust us to lead. They're rioting because they have lost their trust in us.
Raymond? He the shortest one here.
Everything Jupiter just said is 100% correct.
So how do you?
Right.
So what? So have we failed to teach you all the way?
I wouldn't. No. You guys have not failed, because I mean it's no different than you guys teaching us something at home and expecting for us to go to school and perform in a certain way. And as we get older, we change those ways that we were taught because we now have our own mind. You know, so you guys have not failed. It's just about us taking that same information and implementing it when we're out in the streets alone.
Okay.
Let me raise this up so the brother was so short. You know, in 1967, President LBJ commissioned a group called the Kerner Commission to study why these riots were happening throughout the country. And in 1968, they gave a report. And the Kerner Commission report said that there were two Americas, one black, one white, right? Separate, one, and they both were unequal. And so we are looking in 2016, that reality still exists. And so in part, you're looking at a natural byproduct or side effect of the inability to redress what is going on and what's happening with us and to us. Look at what happened to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s movement. His movement was to produce equity. Integration was not the sole goal, but they took his vision and they perverted it. And so now we've integrated our dollars, we've integrated our schools. Everything that we've integrated has produced an adverse effect for us. So now our children, our youth, subconsciously, they don't believe. If we have been ineffective at engaging this system and producing freedom, justice, equality for us, then why would we think that telling them to put down their guns, put down the Molotov cocktails, and to go and see the DA, go and see the city council person. Let's approach the federal government. Let us do these things when this has been a history since we've been here. We talk about changing policy, changing law. Well, it was a policy and a law when we were slaves, that we could be lynched, that we could be beaten. And if the slave was beaten in an attempt to correct the slave, you would not be charged with a felony. So these things exist. And so our young people don't want to hear that same language. So I would say that the older generation has taught what they know. But the problem is there's a disconnect between what the older generation knows and what's going to fit into this particular dispensation of time that's going to produce freedom, justice, and equality. But what young folks have to be able to do is to build on the foundation that they've already received. And the elders have to unleash them and allow them to use their creativity, allow them to use their intelligence to forge a new way and a better way. For what kind of father would I be if I didn't want for my children to be better and greater than I? So we give them guidance, but we allow them to chart out their path in this particular time period. And you know what? We can't be afraid. We have to say their path is going to look a little different from ours. For when we were in grade school, there was no internet. There was, there weren't these things, and we were never really their age. We say that we were their age, but if we look at our time at their age and we look at their time, at the touch of a finger on their phones, they can pull up pornography, they can pull up how to make bombs, they can pull up anything all over the country, where we had to at least get to a certain age and sneak out of the house to even taste what alcohol tastes like. So when we were promiscuous and we ran into the wrong woman or the wrong man, we could go to the clinic and get a shot the next day and be back in the saddle. But if they're promiscuous and they run into the wrong one, that could be a death sentence today. So we were never their age. So we have to understand that we have to give them guidance, but we got to unleash them and let them run. And so what we're seeing in the way of riots is just a byproduct of being frustrated and not being allowed. And we talk about engaging folks. We had a young lady in Austin who was convicted of killing a toddler. She was, I think, 11 or 12. The assistant district attorney was a black man. He was pushing for a life sentence for her. And this was about 15, 20 years ago, but he's been trying to make amends for that since that time period. So when we talk about addressing and engaging law enforcement, the judicial system, and those types of things, where's the evidence that in our engagement since we've been here, it's ever been a benefit for us? But see, when the founding fathers decided that they wanted to come out from under the tyranny of the Queen and the Brits and whatnot, they took up arms. So, but we're trying to give our children a different method and a different way, but they didn't gain freedom, and no nation got freedom without the shedding of blood ultimately. And even when they decided they were going to go to the war, some of them were afraid that if it didn't work, that they would lose their lives. But guess what? When the matter was decided, they were willing to give their lives, and look at what we have today.
Anthony, Fulmore. and before you say anything, I would like to say, anybody who's like just turning in and trying to figure out what we're talking about, we're talking about we're talking about the killing of our black men by our police officers.
I think it goes back to education, and there's a difference between education and learning. There's a difference between the republic and a democracy. A lot of us, it's a statement that states we give our kids to the enemy to raise. So, we learn one thing in school, but our reality is something totally different. So we have internal fights trying to figure out where we fit in. We gave up business ownership for integration, and guess what? We don't have anything now. So we have to get back to the basics. We have to start setting up institutions in our community and start policing up our own communities. We have to learn. I mean, you got to go to the boss. It's just simple. If you have a police shooting, Why you get mad with the police department? Who put the police chief in charge? The mayor. So you go talk to the mayor. Who authorized the police to even operate in that county? The sheriff. So you go talk to the sheriff because they got their charter to even operate in that county, the police from the sheriff. So, you know, we just have to get back to the basics and figure out, you know, that we don't want to live in that fairy tale world, be a citizen, which is not a good thing. They substitute citizenship. Well, they substitute slavery with citizenship. So you went from being a slave to a citizen. The word just changed. If you really go into the definition of emancipation, it's just a transfer of one to the other. So you used to be a slave to the owner, now you're a slave to the state or the federal government. And a lot of people, you know, we need to do some research on what the United States is. The United States is a corporation. And you being a citizen, you are a franchise. If you receive any benefits from the United States, guess what? They can do whatever they want to do to you. So, you know, we just have to educate ourselves and get back to the point of being self-sufficient and creating our own communities, promoting our own communities. You know, I have 4 rules. I'll tell you 2 of them. Number 1 is public and private don't mix. Police is in place to protect municipalities' property. They're not there to protect you at all. It's a Supreme Court case that says the police is not there to protect you. The responsibility to protect yourself is on you. But in order to protect yourself, you must know the Constitution. You must know the laws. You must know the rules. Because whenever you go to court, they're going to charge you with something. And I guarantee it's a monetary value to that charge they're getting ready to charge you with. It's a business. And a lot of people is forgetting that.
Wow.
Thinking about that, I think, you know, we have a place where we would say we have to go through the process of talking to the mayor or talking to the sheriff, you know, but I really think that we still have to overstand even that situation to the point of what it is that we have to do for ourselves. Like, I have 2 boys that's 6 and 3. I feel like it's important that I of course they go to school, but I also have to tell them what our vision is or what our view is. A young man came and talked to my child about what his belief was in the sense of heaven and hell to my son. My son gave me his perception of what he thought about that idea. That means that it means something to him at this age. It's important that he has a guidance towards a certain way of life that I want him to have in valuing himself, whether that be in his education, whether that be in him on a self-defense level, which I think is very important. When we talk about, I heard Minister Farrakhan say something this morning. I was listening to, trying to get my mind together before I was coming in, and he talked about the different gangs that we have in the different organizations, the Christians, the Muslims, the Bloods, the Crips. And when I see one person get killed, I need to feel it all the way around. The Christian church needs to feel it. The Muslims need to feel it. The Bloods need to feel it. The Crips need to feel it. And when we feel some type of way about it, we'll all address it at the same time. You know, but we're not trained in that manner. We don't have a law really amongst ourselves, and when we have that law amongst ourselves, then we have certain guidelines that we'll live by, and we'll deal with each other in a certain fashion like that, you know. And I think that that's something that's really important, connecting us, just like we all in the room right now, right? If anything happens to anybody in this room or anybody associated with any one of their organizations, I need to feel some type of way about it, you know, and I need to know how to defend that in full. Everything that's going on with Mr. Marvin Guy, right. I need to know how to defend Marvin Guy. It sounds like, being introduced to it today, it sounds like he may have something, but he doesn't have support because we don't know how to defend Marvin Guy. He already locked away from us, so we can't break him out to start the process. So now we got to figure out how to get into him to get him back out.
And,
my bad.
And no, what I wanted to add, and he kind of sparked it, is in the way of we need to be connected and feeling these things with the advent of these Facebook Live videos and the videos that are coming forth. this is a part of the reason why we are having riots in other places, because in some of these places, the police aren't killing as much as they are in other places. But because we are inundated with these live videos, seeing our brothers and our sisters being shot down, being murdered, it's just like it happens in your city. So it's Anytown, USA. And the other thing about burning down communities, this is why it's difficult, because when you say our community, what do we own in the community? See, if I burn this store down over here, okay, I can't go and purchase things, but I'm already in a food desert. So if I burn down Mr. Chu's store, if I burn down Ahmed's store, if I burn down it's hard for you to tell me that not burning this store down is going to sustain my community, when brother just mentioned that we're in concentration camps. So there are other people in our communities generating revenue and taking that revenue out. So when we say our community, we just really mean the places where we're housed and the places where we are subjugated, because there are other people benefiting. So, I mean, how do we, help the young folks to understand that when they burn down Mr. Chu's store, they're doing something to their own community, when we not getting any benefit from it, in the first place. And outside of that, when we do burn them down, how many of us come and say, okay, that store is burned down, it's gone, they getting a insurance money, but can we put our money together and build? And so one other thing, economics. See, people we want to talk about social justice, but we don't want to talk about money, bread, dollars, chips, cheese, cheddar. We don't want to talk about that. But part of the reason why they break up gang organizations, why they topple cartels, why they topple, because the economics helps you to harness power. And so the scripture says, money answereth all things. So the reason why they broke up the gangs, now there was an article that was recently written, and they're saying that the effort to get rid of gang activity in the 90s in Chicago inadvertently produced the violence that you see today. But whether people know it or not, in the early 90s, there was 900 and some odd killings in Chicago a year, and it's a little over 500 now. So, but when they toppled the leadership of these gangs, the organized efforts of the gang members under an economic web or program produced these smaller, and the gentrification of the inner cities now are producing these smaller cliques that are not being governed by anyone, and so everybody's out for their self. And so the communities that you saw, even though gangs were doing what they were doing, in the United States government, they knew exactly what they were doing, because anytime you want to cripple a nation, organized crime or anything, you topple the leadership and you break up the economic power. And without the economic power, you have no structure. So we got to start talking economics alongside of social justice. And guess what? That's what ultimately got our brother, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. killed.
Church in the wild.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, when I said parents, I saw your face. You were like, so yeah. So I just want to, because that's why I asked people, and
Right.
he told me parents. He said, well, you should know that. Who do you ask? What's your favorite colors? Whoever told you black? I said, nobody told me black. He said, because black is powerful. Black, most people are afraid of black. So you a black man, people are afraid of you. Even the police are afraid of you. They're scared that you will come and take over. Like if he said, look at the sports, black dominating the sports. Everything that goes on, black dominating. So people are afraid of that. So even in the schools, black kids, but they always try to cover it up. So those are some of the things that you look at. So when you say the parents should know that, like a black parent, he said you should train your children, let them always respect themselves, because if you respect yourself, other people will respect you.
But the thing with the parents, okay, I work for a school district, and I work at elementary campus. The way I could say I disagree with some of that is this: we have parents who drop their kids off at pre-K at school I'm at. Then the parent goes to Ellison High School.